Good evening. My name is Courtney Whiteside, and I serve as Director of Marketing here at Levine Museum of the New South. Welcome to tonight's program, Southern Accents, Veterans, and Verse. If you wish to support the museum in its efforts to offer engaging programming, content, and experiences, then please follow the link in the comments. We also appreciate your feedback about tonight's program, as well as your suggestions for future topics. Feedback helps us make our programs better. So please click on the survey link in the comments section for a very short survey at any point during the program. And you can also use the chat function to engage with us and each other and ask questions to our panelists during the program. So tonight we are joined by Coach Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz as they discuss their new book, Trigger Warning. Inspired by conversations with military members, particularly Charlotte area Black veterans, as well as paintings and photos of wartime, Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz wrote poems dedicated to military members and their families. Trigger Warning explores veteran experiences of war and its aftermath and shows how art can uniquely capture those experiences. And now I'll pass it on to our moderator for the evening, Mr. Albert Jeffrey Houston. Mr. Houston is a publisher and a facilitator of workshops. He is also an author of 8 books, including Let Us Write, a collection of 365 writing prompts with a purpose. He believes that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, your poems should be worth 1,000 pictures. Mr. Jeffrey created the company, Not Just Alphabets, in 1999, with the goal of helping others realize their dream of becoming published authors. A veteran himself, AJ Houston is the publisher of Trigger Warning. Thank you all for joining us and enjoy the program.
It's an honor to be here today. We are honored to be at the Levine Museum of the New South. I'm here with 2 brothers, Coach Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz, and we're introducing the book Trigger Warning. I'm your moderator, AJ Houston. This poem, the title is Paid in Full. I can't recall how many pair I've owned, but the last pair, I must have walked the spit shine off. Somewhere between Stuttgart, Germany, and repairing helicopters in the deep woods of Arkansas. A dusty, worn, nearly wrinkled pair of boots resting in the bottom of my duffel bag. Name and serial number barely visible, but would gladly trade them in, laced tight on my feet, if I could be the replacement for my sons or daughters next tour in Iraq or Afghanistan. Not all in this free America agrees on the price we paid for freedom. The one thing we can agree on is that freedom ain't never been free. I love the way in spotlights and on stages, your tongue dangles like a rope on the branch of an oak after hanging, so loose and so free. But spit that, but know for sure, for history's sake, millions traded limbs, nightmares, and breath, so you can stand there, rat, rave, filibuster, and scream those words you sound so sure of people you've never really met, events you've never witnessed. It just sounds good to say. I adore how freedom sounds so clear, racing through speakers, bouncing off of walls and open mics. My daughter has PTSD, but you can never feel it in her hugs. My son arrived from Afghanistan healthy in one piece, unlike some parents I know who proudly display a Medal of Honor and a folded flag in lieu of smiles. Those things you think are so important doesn't hold the weight of an empty body bag. I cherish the way your political parties and your team pieces look. When you interlock your arms, feet rhythmically moving, and talk about this disgusting dirt on any of these free towns in these United States. I'm sorry your political parties and your portrait venues are feuding. It just doesn't sound like war to me. You can never see the big picture. If I created it in 4D, there are troops like sentinels watching over you while you sleep, so you can wake and be angry at someone else for nothing. I idolize the way your mouth moves and your holder of words glide from side to side so fluidly, making me feel you've paid for some free or have a freedom card in your wallet on free you get to use. I told my son to watch his back when he arrived overseas. Should have told him the streets in this America are much more dangerous, because too many think they paid for freedom themselves. No matter how many pages we write as a collective, there's still more blood than ink seeping into foreign soil from soldiers than those fighting with them. Now tell me again how you hate this government, this Congress, the way it works. It feels good to get it off your chest. I love the way your tongue unties like nooses. Wish your words didn't sound like ropes with skin still present. Bet your ancestors, bet your forefathers would be proud of their gold, platinum, diamond encrusted freedom chain around your neck, your ankle. Let me see your expensive freedom watch one more time. How many tongues or lives did it cost? I know it feels good to get the weight off your chest. We can never use one moment of silence, of paying for homage for one life lost. If we use the quiet as payment, we will cease to speak. Reversing time is just a simple wish for suckers, afraid to take one step into the now and be real with it. So I dusted off my size 11s to show that I'm ready, completely aware all the freedoms we use so freely ain't never been free. So welcome to Trigger Warnings. It's a book written by two brothers, Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz, and it's dedicated to the soldiers. It's them, their conversations and everything. So I'm gonna ask both of them first. When did you start writing poetry? What is your interest in poetry? When did it start?
You're on mute.
Excuse me. A lot to say with nobody to listen, right? Thank you, AJ, for having us. Thank you to the Levine Museum of the New South for inviting us. Um, poetry has been everything. It's been our lifestyle. So as far as when I can pinpoint my actual fall in love with it, I can't really pin the finger to it. But I know as I grew into my teenage life, I began to grow into a more of a love for it, a passion for it. I started to write from um, spaces that I actually wouldn't have thought I would have found myself in that time. So through my teenage years is when I really, really found my love for what poetry is.
So, firstly, I just want to thank Levine Museum in the New South. This is such an amazing situation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Also, I want to shout out AJ Houston, my brother. By far, this project would probably still be sitting, waiting, had it not had your hands in it. From not only publishing but also to the designing of the cover and just giving us guidance we needed during this mission, right? And I say mission because the idea, the whole concept of this book, which we'll get into, is well beyond these days. And so it's going to take us back to a time that we've not known and still carry us in a time that we may never see. And so I'm so grateful to be a part of that. Poetry has actually been a major part of our family. Our mother is a poet. Our uncle is a poet. In fact, our uncle, who is probably one of the dopest, amazing poets I've met, just the idea that he uses, actually learned poetry from my other aunt, who's his older sister. And so poetry had never been something that I've done. It's been something that I've always been and always was. And so the inspiration just comes from actually just breathing air. And there's some inspiration every time the lung expands, every time the mind decides to allow the lung to get air. And so the inspiration and when it started, it goes back a long time, at least 50 years.
And we are so honored to be at the Museum of the New South. And here we have Jah Smalls to my right and Mr. Witz below me. And the book is Trigger Warning. So how did this collaboration happen? What was the process for writing Trigger Warning?
Wow. So we'd have to go back a bit. And so initially, we have uncles who are veterans. And so part of this, the concept of this book was that military figures, military soldiers, military men and women alike attached to every human being alive, whether it be you, whether it be a family member, a friend, or someone you look up to, somewhere down the line, someone within the military is attached to your person. And so we were thinking about how do we honor not just our uncles, right? and our grandfather who had spent their time and had careers in the military, but those folks who also have but have not been able to say, hey, yes, I was in the military, but this was something that I didn't get the experience to tell about, to talk about, something that I went through. This was a trip that I've gone through. And so we were trying to kind of pull all of those ideas together. And during the pandemic, when the pandemic was in full fledged, when we were locked in our homes, we were doing creative writing workshops. And there were so many images that I was seeing. And Mr. Witz will go into the further part. There were also military folks that he talked to within his travels more than I with his work. And those stories just began to actually pull themselves together. And like I said before, what we did was we took what was and kind of just ironed it out across the ironing board, just put a little steam to it to allow it to be presentable for everyone else. And so it just came about for something that we wanted to do to honor our uncles, but it would be a disservice to honor one or two men when there's a whole lifetime of folks who have been a part of the military. We wanted to make sure we gave all of them their flowers within our message of this book.
Indeed, well expressed, brother. It's like you said, this journey has been something putting this book together. Um, my uncles, I have a great relationship with my uncles, but when you're young, you don't go seeking messages like you would as an adult, right? So I guess in my youth, I was more fancied by who they were as individuals, less than the journey that they had been through to become who they were. So when we decided to dive in on this, it really had a effect on me because I haven't had those conversations. I haven't had those. I've seen the effects that they've had on my family, but I haven't had the conversations prior to put the puzzle together. Now, like my brother said, I have spoken with quite a few, and he does himself. You know, one thing about us, we are really in touch with the community. So, like, doesn't matter where we live, we talk to people. We're not afraid to make a friend in a stranger, right? So, a lot of the people that I've come across may have been my first time coming across them, but we found reason to revisit one another. And I've had conversations with military veterans that are in some of the in hard positions of life right now, and it hurt me to know that they risked who they were, their actual life, all of their existence, to come out the way that they are. So it was my job to be a voice for them, not being able to scream and voice themselves, or just not being heard by the right people. Being able to get in different spaces, being a poet, it's our duty to speak for those who have been silenced. And I feel like a lot of that's been the MO behind the military veteran.
You know, and yep, the next question is basically because there are a lot in the beginning of the book. It says American wars and conflicts, right? Has a whole list of things that I didn't know were going on. Or I didn't know they were participating in. Some are still ongoing. So when you see veterans, you don't know which war, which conflict they participated in, but you know they're veterans. So why is it that this was necessary in the beginning of the book to let other people know things? I guess things we didn't know. Why is that necessary?
It is very much necessary because the generational gaps, the experiences that we have throughout different generations are similar but very different. And especially when it comes to talk like war, you know, there has been a level of um, what is legally right to kill. You can use to kill someone. what you can legally use to kill someone is actually a conversation. So with that being said, there has been a change of the militia that has been used. So yeah, it has had effect um, throughout the different generations behind the different combats and battles that had taken place.
So to both of you, okay, so how did you work collaboratively, and how did you decide to organize the poems? Was it going to be one and one, or two, or what was the thought behind, I guess, putting these poems together and place them in the book?
So there were so a number of things happened. Like I said, we were doing workshops consistently, and a lot of the conversations that centered around what we were writing. Some of the images we used were images of actual people at war, and so we kind of went back and forth. This is probably the easiest collaboration I would think ever has happened. I don't see it. I don't recall a time where it was like, wow, now this one needs to go before that one. It's kind of like this book was already set to be put together. And so to be honest, I can't tell you how I don't even remember how we decided this needs to go here, that needs to go there. I think we were split down the middle. We didn't use all the poems that we had written, and was like, you know what? These fit perfectly. And so when you go to the store, right? And you buy something to eat, right? You look at the ingredients at some point. Maybe some of you don't, but the ingredients always says this is what's the main thing, and so on. And the least amount of things start to dwindle towards the end. The things at least implemented. And so what we knew was the makeup was already set. And it really didn't matter where we were dropping the pieces. So we just kind of just said, you know what, let's look at this how it sounds, and it rang perfectly. And when we were initially set, we actually did a live Zoom so we can grasp a collective of folks that we believed in and that believed in us as well, and had their opinions go. And the response, I'll be in tears if I try to explain how that felt. And so we knew the carpet was set on this floor. It was plush carpet and it was perfect. The terrain was perfect. The way we did it. And so I don't know, maybe Witz can tell you exactly how, but I don't recall.
Witz, any comments?
I definitely do have comments. Coach is being quite modest, if you ask me. He facilitated these workshops that constructed this book. Um, uh, Now, some of the stories are actual conversation pieces, so I highly think you will be able to tell the difference, which is what made this book so magical. But my brother, when he facilitated these workshops, um, and he brought us these images, he also took a journey with us prior to writing the pieces, like, to allow us to express what our eyes were grabbing, right? What we were physically holding, visually holding on to. Like, what do you see here? What have you captured within this image? And then exploring those avenues allowed for the work to be that much easier. So again, I have to give it to Coach. He did play a major part in helping us to construct the direction of where we wanted to go. Now, as far as ordering, the order of the book, there's no right way to read this book. Every story that you visit is going to be a whole different terrain from the last one that you visited. So this book, when we first um, put it together, really brought tears to my eyes. I don't think none of my previous books made me that emotional. So yeah, this book has purpose. It's here for a reason.
Okay, and let me, before I ask the next question, let me tell you a couple of things about Levine, the Museum of the New South. See, it connects the past to the future to realize the promises of a new South. See, more than 30 years ago, Levine Museum of the New South was founded as a history museum that would tell everyone's story. A radical idea at the time and a radical idea still. The museum was founded as a place that would use exhibits and programs to confront some of the most difficult issues facing us today in the historical context that deepens understandings, fosters empathy, and inspires actions toward a better future. So there's a lot of things you can find online at the Museum of the New South, but you can also go there and walk through and see exhibits that are there now. And we'll talk more about that as we go. But I just wanted to say it's an honor to be here presenting our work, of this piece of work, via the Museum of the New South. So yes, the next question for the book we're talking about right now is Trigger Warning by Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz. The next question is, what are some of the themes and ideas you hope readers will take away from the book? I think Mr. Witz touched on that just a little bit. But Jah, you start. So what are some of the things you think people should take away from reading the book?
One of my greatest goals, I would say, right? The inspiration I would much prefer from this book, going through other vessels, is basically, number one, acknowledging that there are some folks who have sacrificed parts of them that they will never get back. There are some people here who sacrifice themselves so that you can walk to the store peacefully, so that you can have a decent hot meal. And in fact, they have offered so much of themselves, sacrificed so much of themselves, that they can't even journey life as you do comfortably. And so there are. I'll give an example. There are, and I love to talk about this part. So it's a very good question. I love to talk about the importance of mental stability, the importance of mental health, and having a mental stability that allows you to function throughout a day. There are some folks, there's some human beings who sacrifice so much of themselves that post-traumatic stress disorder runs their life. They can't go across bridges in a car. They can't hear loud sounds. They dream terribly at night. Certain languages, certain sounds, certain movements send them into another frenzy. And so I don't have the exact percentage, but a large percentage of the homeless folks in your community are members of, or former members of the military, belong to the military family. And so they may not even comprehend what their life is like, because they don't know life as you know it because of their sacrifice. And so when I was young, I used to talk to the people who lived on the streets. I didn't call them homeless people. I talked to those people who lived on the streets. And that is how I knew they were in the military. And I'm talking young. Witz will tell you, my Umi will tell you. I'm talking when I was young, when I was a teenager. And I spoke to them, developed relationships to the point where they were living on the street. They would offer me a soda. No, let me buy you a soda. And I want you to think about that, right? A person who doesn't have a physical address, so now he can't get benefits to take care of his health, to get money for food, because he doesn't have a physical address. And we don't know the story. The assumption is that he's just having a bad time or he's on drugs. That's always the first assumption. But these people, these human beings, have sacrificed so much of themselves so that you can live the way that you live. And we walk past them every day without even mentioning how you doing, or just a simple smile. And so what I would love to see not only people who read this book, who read these poems, not just read them to your children, read them to those men and women who sacrificed that are in your family. Read it to those people who are working within the community of veterans. Find the veterans, find them, buy the book and give it to them. In fact, that's a lot of what we want. We want to gift them these books, because I want them to understand that we may not know how right foot went over the left foot, not the way they do. We don't know how the terrain went from grass to mud to dirt to snow to hard rock to mountaintop. We don't know that, not the way they do. Even if we were there, they still walk differently. And so I want to remember how they walked, the way they walked, and the reason they walked is because so that you can walk now. And I want you to be inspired enough to do something to help one person. One. Because if we all help one, guess what? We saved a whole lot. We saved a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was actually, next what we're going to do is, I used to think I could differentiate between your tone of voice, Jah, in the book, and Witz's tone of voice in the book. But sometimes these poems kind of blend to where you sound almost like each other. So there's a list of poems that were requested to be read. Oh, Gifted said, imagine developing a relationship, paying respect to our veterans. Gift the book, trigger warning. So yes. So I think this is a Witz poem. And now it's done. Is that a Witz poem? That's a Jah poem? Okay, that's the poem.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's Coach Jah. That's Coach. That's Coach.
Okay, so the first poem we're going to hear from the book Trigger Warning is Coach Jah, and now it's done. We can't hear you, Jah. You muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I've returned from foreign terrain where fighting took place on a land that does not know my footsteps. Just to return home, unfamiliar as it may seem, I'm back. And I can't find myself. Lost everything besides the inside voice I used to know. The echo that once spoke to me when everything else was so noisy. An outside world couldn't force the busy of the day to silence itself. I've come back to strange faces and bedrooms that don't have walls, ceilings that stretch to God's doorstep. It feels like he steps over me to wake his angels in the morning. I've returned to a home where the recipients of the freedom I fought for refuse to call my name, won't believe my journey, and don't even bother to listen. Can't see my sacrifice keeps them comfortable, lays freedom at their doorstep. I fight so they will never have to. However, they forbid me eye contact. 3 squares and a simple smile that says thank you or good morning. I fought for a country that left amputees to walk on their own, washed their faces with an arm that was manufactured, forgotten we lost body parts for their safety and well-being. Now, return to a home that can't remember me, won't tip their hat or salute me. I know they don't understand my journey, but that doesn't mean I don't have a past. And now my sacrifice feels like a thought in the wind. I carry an anvil around my neck that visits my dreams, imprisons me with flashbacks of death and warfare. And now I stand alone in a country that has forgotten me, a land that calls freedom I've yet to taste. Nothing makes sense anymore. All I can hear are the bombs and the bullets that stole my brethren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was, and now it's done. A poem from Trigger Warnings, and we're gonna hear a poem from Mr. Witz. Mr. Witz, I was asking, is Tears one of your poems? Did you write Tears? Because it sounds like your tone in there, but I'm not sure. I'll tell you, this book has me complex because you both sound like each other in these poems. I guess it's when you tell the story, you're telling somebody else's story, so you take on the persona of that particular person and you tell the story. So is Tears one of your poems?
No, sir.
Nope.
No, sir.
What about Black American Veteran?
Yes, that's one of mine.
Okay, so next we're going to hear Black American Veteran from Trigger Warning by Mr. Witz.
My uncle is a veteran, an American hero, but he doesn't speak of war too much. Most he says is, those stories are real life horror films, inserts he'd wear in coffin before he'd allow me to act out a scene, to audition for a starring role, to envision the wake up from a nightmare of movie, to Ready to Die, any his battle conclusions. Not far enough from Juneteenth, he was drafted into war. Should be hard to imagine, life offering to still find yourself camera captivating to your fought for nation's prejudice. He said he'd never have me forefront myself, a cause only freeing in the loss of life, to blind man the path of bastard liberties that only reconcile with the viewing of the body. My uncle is a vet, and he barked like a mad dog, spit particles from the sides of his mouth in anger whenever anyone mentioned anything about it. And I know there's so much more he hasn't said. I want to know all there is to know about him. But it seems he only speaks his truth to his bottle. Sometimes I watch him sing song before swallow, and I wonder where his mind marched off to. I've heard scare stories of his flashbacks, how car rides over bridges could episode an enemy kidnap. My uncle is a veteran, a once big man. Now he weaks in a message of every twisted cap, but I still see him, big as his pictures before he left for his first tour. Big as the war photo over mom's dresser after he left us. A mountain that rose in a man in America, transformed into a human volcano. My uncle is a veteran. One, it seems that America has forgotten.
And that was Black American Veteran from Trigger Warning, a poem by Mr. Witz. This book is a collaboration of the two brothers you see here, Coach John and Mr. Witz. And I'm telling you, the stories are excellent. You can actually get lost in listening to the stories of veterans. You can actually buy the book. The link is here. And the book is Trigger Warning. But I also want to say that this month, right now we're celebrating Black History Month at the Levine Museum. You can always engage the history and history makers of our region all year long. Dive into the exhibits and programs of the museum to learn more about it, like the recording of the most recent MLK celebration, which Coach Jah was a part of. You can learn about trailblazers like Charlotte's own Dorothy Counts Scroggins, an American civil rights pioneer, and one of the first students to integrate North Carolina's public schools. You can hear her story in her own words in the museum's Cotton Fields to Skyscrapers exhibit. So there's a Cotton Fields and Skyscrapers exhibit going on right now, Black History Month at the Levine Museum of the New South. And I appreciate this is such an honor to be here. And I just want you to know there's a link. Just follow the link and see what's going on and go to the museum. If you can't go there physically, just visit online, because you will be amazed at the things you will find that's right close to you of local people and local things. Just like this book, Trigger Warning, is an example of veterans, of conversation with veterans, of conversations that people had. So have a conversation with people you see, because you don't know how a smile or just a conversation can help someone that doesn't seem like anybody loves them or doesn't know that somebody cares. So we have to find a way to care. We have to find a way to do something for our veterans. Coach Jah, could you read the poem Tears?
Have you ever watched a tear march down the cheek of a soldier? The way it reflects the bending of an elbow. I never saw strength as bold, the fierce in its audacity to dare someone to bat an eyelid. Did you ever ask him of his travels? Ever ask her to capture post-war memories in a heartbeat? The conversation. Who are we to judge them? To question how we dictate what their sojourn has been? To mention what we never witnessed through their consciousness? I've heard the stories. The horrors that refuse them of 8 hours, the flashbacks that trigger danger when it's still quiet inside. Have you listened to their cries? Ever watched them try to heal in the bottom of a whiskey bottle, the way libations become their only means of survival? There's no halfway for them. There forever stands in the masquerade of a troubled time, the moment when we become more than I, and they become larger than we. And we never made a better homecoming for those who gave our today the comfort of fresh bed sheets and goose feather blankets. Have you listened to the stories? The way they make struggle sound like butter rolls and hot tea. And all they ask for is respect. A home that simply asks them, how's your day? Asks how they're feeling without a prepaid follow-up. I've watched them cry for help, beg to not be abandoned, left out of society like a garden hose in the wintertime. I've watched them swallow themselves within the webbing of self-doubt, abandonment, 86 like a bad seed sleeping atop the soil of the same land they clearly believed in. But no one watched them cry. Never saw them stand chest up and square shoulders before the time. Maybe they feel cheated now, or lied to. Forgotten like work boots once retired sets in. Seems maybe it's just me, drowning in the tears of our most sacrificial service department. But to them, we owe our regards and the highest level of respect any duty man should have, for surely they have earned it.
Mm. Man. That poem was Tears out of Trigger Warning, a collaboration book by Coach Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz. And Trigger Warning, you can actually, there's a link here where you can purchase the book. And the book is really dedicated to the veterans. As you hear, it's really the stories of veterans it's poets telling the stories that veterans told them, and they're telling in poetry form. So you can't get any more emotions than you can find in this book, any more truth than you can find in this book. So yes, I'm saying I'm so honored to be here at the Levine Museum. Barbara Morales, thank you. I'm so honored to be here, Levine Museum of the New South, and I told you that you can go to the link that they have here and see what's going on. There's a Black History exhibit going on right now. It's called what is it? It's called Cotton Fields to Skyscrapers, and that's a gamut. That's a gamut of thought right there. So, Mr. Witz, so I want you to share another poem with us from the book Trigger Warning.
This piece is entitled Downwind. This is an actual story, gravitated from conversation with the military veteran. His name is also posted in the book. Communication is key, utmost important. Nothing's more humbling than conversation. knowing the person beside you has your back for more reasons than their very own, especially when the energy is mutually shared, unquestionably in an understanding laughter. You almost forget that you're on post when it tickles you down to the bone. Military helmets can't hide teeth twinkling, nor do they keep the sun off a face. Giggles go silent in the scope of an enemy, measuring breeze against the range of distance. Although the message cuts when as quick as thought when you receive it, you won't know what happened until it hits you, barely misses you, like a dog whistle tiptoeing past your ear. If not for the slightness of peripheral vision, if not for turning to a rendering quiet, it could have easily been two. I may just as easily have been the next. It happened so swiftly, so suddenly. I never felt his blood splatter me cheek to chin strap. Then the next one hit me, grazed in the waist. The third in my turn struck me in the back as I dropped behind a wall, falling with the body of conversation led only to an end. A soldier, a friend whose face was stolen, downwind of a sightful marksman sniper, robbing us of laugh, hem of life at only shoulder length to me. Then redirecting his sight on mine, caught beside myself, I was taken by blind, staring to a man who had lost half his face, my comrade, my right flank, and I, the last voice he'd never hear again, if not for the sudden quiet of conversation. The body count could easily have tallied me too, and I can't help but wonder if lack thereof may have spared the lives of us both.
And that's poem Downwind from the book Trigger Warning. And I'm going to ask, yeah, definitely. Do you have any questions for our panelists? So you can type them in if you have any questions. But I want to offer this moment. Write down this link. It's www.museumoftheNewSouth.org. So you need to go here and take a look and see everything they have going on. And or if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, you can go visit and see what they are actually displaying. But it's an honor for us to be here. The book is Trigger Warning. Authors are Coach Jah Smalls and Mr. Witz. And I'm going to give you both a moment to say what you want to say so people know exactly what this book is to you, to the both of you.
I'm going to speak first because my brother speaks a lot more eloquent than myself. Writing this book is emotionally attached for more reasons than one. In these workshops, we made spiritual connections to photographs that I don't think, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can find them all in there. You could literally find them all in there. These workshops were amazing. They really brought the edge onto the emotion that comes through these pieces. Then there are the actual written pieces from the physical connections that were made in life, and those like the last one I just did, they do something different to you because you can physically tie them, right? You can almost feel them physically in your hands, right? So that's another reason that it tied emotion. Um, but one of the biggest reasons is the unspoken is the forespoken reason, I will say, and that's because I was able to do this connection with my brothers. This is the first book that I was able to put together with my physical brother, and it only was blessed to have the company and the hands of my other brother AJ Houston, man. Um, though our blood don't run through the same veins, it found the Nile. You feel me? It's like we're all remnants from the Nile, and yeah, this book ties in all of the emotion of actual humanity, and that's why it's so big.
Okay, thank you for taking these veterans' words and translating their experiences in a way that gives them dignity and grace. And Jennifer, I thank you for being here, for listening. I really appreciate your comments. And I just wanted to say that there's so many emotions throughout the whole book. And there's so many stories that you probably may have seen in a movie or you probably haven't heard, but you haven't heard them this way. So the book Trigger Warning is two brothers taking the time to listen to veterans, to listen to their stories, to translate them into spoken word, into a language of images, a language of poetry, and present them in a way that I hadn't seen any other book presented before. So if you can, get a copy of Trigger Warning. If you get a couple copies, give it to a veteran, give it to somebody you know, because they need to hear these stories. Trigger Warning is a book, and you can find it here on the link is here. And don't forget, write down the link, www.museumoftheNewSouth.org, and see what they have going on. There's a lot of things going on that you'll be honored to see. You probably didn't know what's happening in your area. If you're from North Carolina, if you're from Charlotte, you'll meet local people that during Black History Month, you say, I didn't know these things happened or occurred the same way this book Trigger Warning presents it. So Coach Jah, you wanted to, is your time. So what do you want people to know about the book?
My goodness, there's I don't know where to begin, to be honest. There's so much to say about how this book was constructed. Everybody look at the pandemic as being such a horrible thing as it was. It was very horrible chain events we had to walk through. But within that, we were able to meet this amazing brother AJ Houston, and actually he helped us cultivate what we had not known. I never read this book without crying. I cannot read words that I wrote already and not have tears. And so the complete, when I got the book, I didn't know how to act. I was dancing and jumping around, downstairs. I was just so excited. But I never knew, even when the poems, we said, that's enough. We cutting it off, right? We gotta, it's gonna be a part 2. Even in that, I never knew the impact it would have. And there's so much, there's so much emotion, and it's kind of hard to even find words. I also need to say this about my brother Witz, because he always talks about the difference in the way we speak. And I want to say this because I want him to understand the depths of your thinking is well above the average mindset. Okay. And so you speak with a metaphoric genius because that's just the way your mind works. You can't dumb it down. And so it's not that you don't speak well, it's just you speak with such weight and volume that the average ear gets it and the mind still can't comprehend it in time. And then we find out a week later, oh, that's what he was talking about. And so
it has to be translated.
There's nothing wrong with how you speak or the way you speak, but the genius in it isn't for the average ear. And so a lot of people, you go over my head every day, and I don't think that I'm dumb, right? But it's just, and so I want you to hone in on that and stay and remember that. sometimes I have to have a sifter because it's so grand what you're saying that I can't even figure it out. So it's not a better or worse. It's just a different aspect. But the genius mind is a genius mind, brother. You can't downplay that. And sometimes the tongue can't catch up to the mind.
And they say we have 2 audience questions, and I'm gonna see if I can't see what those are. We have 2 audience questions. Let's see. Brother Mike says, as a vet, I thank you 3 for this book. And the question is, what was the service range of the vets you encountered?
That's a great question, by the way, because that was like one of my opening lines, right? That was one of my opening things. Like, what did you do? What was your ranking, right? And I didn't post any of those within within the book because I didn't want it to be what you chase behind, right? I wanted you to be able to feel this from any ranking, from a private to a sergeant to a lieutenant, because the gravity of the message was more important than the title of the individual.
I agree. There were so many. But here's what I will say. I've met some folks who have several tours. Some folks who have only had one. I've had folks who have blown themselves apart. And I'm not talking about just a finger. I'm talking about limbs just flown apart that I got to share stories with, and some of whom were there with us with our first release of the book. And I mean, there were so many ranks, but I think collectively our idea was not so much about what the ranking officer was, as opposed to who they were and what they went through. And I think their boots on the ground, that experience was more what we wanted to bring to the front. I mean, who knows, later on we may do some things like that, but it was more important. But that's a very good question. And it's good that people need to know that it was so many different ranking officers and male and female alike that have had some amazing encounters that, we couldn't even begin to. I couldn't make this stuff up, is what I'm saying.
Okay, and where did you go? Where did you have to go when writing this? And that's Mike and Michelle. Like, where did you transport yourself in order to translate these messages into verse?
And Kendra, that's a very good question. First of all, my Kay Michelle has been, she's been a part of my workshop several times over. And I know that's why she asked this question, because in my workshops, I'm not going to ask you to do something I'm not willing to do. And so I'm going to show you how I work, so you understand the depths I had to go to with these pieces, whether it was a story that I heard or was an image that I saw. The idea is, what is the unseen in that? So what are you not telling me with this first photo? What are you not telling me within that? So that means I'm listening to your voice. That means I'm checking your body language. That means I'm looking at the shading. I'm trying to see if this is a certain time of day when this is happening. I'm looking to see if this is another country, if the two soldiers have different accents, if they come from different places. I'm going so deep that I want to see what the film director sees that the actor hasn't found yet. And so I'm trying to go to those depths. I'm trying to go past everything that's right here, because there are layers. And I'm trying to go to the deepest layer possible to bring that to life. So if your voice is shaking, then I know how to attach a desire to that shaking of your voice. And so that's where I would go. I want to go to the depths of it, because the surface stuff is easy. That's the easy part. I want to go to what you're not telling me.
Well, and Blood Brother Mike said he was talking about from World War I, World War II.
Let me add on to that. Let me add on to that.
Wait, I gotta read this. Witz, I got to read this first. It's she say, so sons, I'm very proud to be your mom, and thank you for using your blessings to carry on this honorary work. And now you can continue, sir. I just had to read that before you finish.
Yeah, but see, now you got me thinking about my mom. You know, I'm a mama's boy, so you got my concentration all screwed. But it's all good. Um, Again, I do want to accommodate my brother with this because he's such a good facilitator. Like, you know, he's the type of uh genius that tell you, well, you know, what does the air taste like? You know what I'm saying? What do you mean? What does the air taste like? Well, is it hot? Is it cold? You know, hot, cold. What does that got to do with taste? You know, with making those correlations, this is the kind of way that he facilitates. Um, like tying the whole experience in, right? And that also that helped bring to life the words. Um, Myself, I like to kind of go black and literally put myself in the body, not just in the shoes. I want to be the soul inside the body. So that's the gravity that I kind of reach for, is to have that full experience, you know, to show you the level of emotion that needs to be portrayed in a situation like that. You know, not something that, you know, you would think, because you don't think when you have to react. You know, there's no time. So I like that. You have to get into the embodiment of what's the immediate reaction, and then you feel the emotion later. So it kind of all ties in when I do things like
And Miss Betty says she has a question. I don't see it in the mess. I'm trying to find it. So okay, do you feel emotionally drained after writing each and every poem? And were you visited by ghosts of these souls?
that. It's kind of like my brother said. When you write, work with this gravity of emotion, it's hard not to revisit every time you visit. So this book is kind of haunting. I don't open it until I have to, because every time I visit it, I can't fight the emotion off. So now I got to go through a level of how do I take that weight back off of me now that I've put it on. You know, it's like putting on um uh a metal chest. You know what I'm saying? And you walking around with that, you know, that shield of protection, you know, and it's weighing you. So it's double working on you, you know. While it's protecting you, it's also dragging you and taking something from you that you may not even know that you're giving. So yeah, when you do, anyone that finds these messages worthy and think that they want to have one of these books, I'm gonna warn you, when you visit these pieces, to make room to cleanse, to get free, because you can walk around with emotion that you don't know you're carrying just because of where you've been. And I think that's another version of the story of the military veteran, because they're carrying on everyday life, revisiting these horrors in their nightmares, in their day. I've seen somebody, you know, grab at somebody in broad daylight just because the movement was a reminder of an interaction. So yeah, find room to cleanse after you visit these stories because they are heavy.
And I'm gonna have to ask for another poem from both of you one each. But before that, let me say, write this down: museumofnewsouth.org. You definitely got to visit the site. We really appreciate being here. This is the Levine Museum of the New South. It's an honor to be here. And like I told you earlier, it was more than 30 years ago when was founded, and was founded so it could tell everyone's story. And there are exhibits right now. It's Black History Month, and they have an exhibit, and it's cotton fields to skyscrapers. If you get a chance, go visit it, first, because to view something in person is a whole lot better than viewing it online. And we've gotten so used to online that you have to go here. If you're ever there, go visit the museum, because you need to see what's going on. You need to see what they're doing, and it's an honor to be here. So now I'm gonna ask both of the brothers each to do one more poem, and if you have any more questions, you can definitely send the questions here. We'll read them and I'll have them answer it. But Mr. Witz, this time you go first, sir.
Thank you again, AJ, for facilitating this, my brother, and for the major parts that you have played in making this creation and bringing it to life. We love you. Another thank you to Levine Museum of the New South for allowing us to put this on a platform that we may not have been able to do on our own. This piece is it's called "Though I Walk in Front of Him." It's another dedication piece, so it's heavy. Try to get through it. Though I walk in front of him, with his hand on my shoulder, he always leads the way. Always had the eye, the heart to see and take the oncoming. Always left a larger impression next to mine, whenever he hadn't engulfed it in the vast of his accomplishments. A lesser man would have liquor drowned himself in envy long ago. I glory in each swallow of his imprints. I never thought he'd lose footing, a step of his stride. Always charged at the challenge with a linebacker's helmet. Head down, eyes up, shoulders square, forward. Like he dreamt of it with an unleashed spirit. A stand-up man with not much of a stand down, but a live DZ can ambush all awareness. There's no such thing as ready for war when your location pins you with the element of surprise. Head down, eyes up, shoulders square, forward. You can lose all direction when bombs exploding all around you. Rifle rounds drowning out the very last words dropped from the jaws of fallen comrades. There's no sense of aloneness, like a meadow of soldiers turned into flower arrangements. Fathers who have given their lives for their flags, sons who haven't even had children yet. You die here just to come out alive. Lose a piece of you if you don't come out whole. Only those who have sacrificed the last of their breaths will go on to live forever. Your right arm becomes the man positioned to your right, your left flank just as valuable. So honestly, how do you continue on knowing a man has offered his life in front of yours? I may have hurried your body off the battlefield that day into the breast of our company. Dead man's weight in a surviving soldier, but you've carried me the whole war. My heart hurt purple more than that badge of survival. Knowing each morning he awakes in that same battle. So I nightmare just to see you whole again, leading us all through the darkness. Head down, eyes up, shoulders square, forward. I don't feel much like a hero when every day you brave carpet, walking on landmines. And now I'm just honored with every privilege given to tie his shoe.
I just want to say, welcome to Trigger Warning. And it was an honor for me to be presented with this work to publish. Blood Brother Mike asked, did I have a poem that I composed because of Trigger Warning? I wrote the introduction to the book, but you have to get the book to read it. And it was an honor to say, because I'm the father of 2 young men that served in the Army. One did 3 tours in Afghanistan, one did 2 tours in Poland. And I didn't know we had anything going on in Poland. My daughter did 3 tours in Iraq. She was a captain. She has PTSD now, and the Army retired her. She wanted to be a lifer. She wanted to retire from the Army, but they retired her because she has PTSD. So being a veteran and the father of veterans, I know that there's stories you will never hear. So knowing this book has stories that you will never hear in the form that you would never hear them, it's an example of how great these 2 young men are for writing this work, for presenting it in a way and a form that we can actually purchase this book, give it to veterans. And just imagine, Levine, the Museum of the New South, has presented us with this platform to present this work to you. And it's such an honor to be the moderator of this work. So now we're going to get a poem by Coach Jah.
When chaos strikes, and noise is the only comfort you can adhere to. These are moments when men become men. When counting on the closest face next to you means forgetting a man's color, respectfully placing one's stripes in the same place you plant your life. When we're in the midst of jungle and a civilization whose accent becomes a trigger. Voice raptures spirits till believers chant, my brother's keeper, like a rite of passage. Feels like the only prayer that kept its promise, and the only God we know had to live within a soldier. At my 6, it was decades ago. But like last night, I remember. Fresh baked in my memory like my birthday. Every call and response that bounced to beating boot heels against wet terrains. We woke before the sun. Marched the new day found its light. We marched as one. Arms attached by oaths that can never be severed. For it was decades ago, yet and still, forever. I mean forever, we will remain soldiers.
So I don't know what any of you think, but this book, Trigger Warning, is definitely a gift for anybody that reads it. And I think we all need to buy it. You need to purchase it. Follow these 2 brothers. Their links are on here somewhere. But it's an honor for me to be here. And let me tell you, see, the Museum of the New South says Levine Museum connects the past to the future to realize the promises of a new South. And these 2 young men have presented this book, Trigger Warning, for everybody. And I'm saying you can't imagine the things that are coming forth next. And I just want to thank Levine, the Museum of the New South, for giving us this opportunity, this platform to present this work. And everybody that's here, I thank you. It's an honor to be here to moderate this and to see that you're all participating with the words that you're typing, with your that you just, this is Black History Month. So this right here is Black history. So yeah, if you have anything to say, I'm saying, so I'm good, man. Y'all want to say something before we go? Because I actually want Alex to come back, and I want Alex to say something. It's an honor to see each of you gentlemen presenting your work on this platform celebrating Black veterans for Black History Month. So I want Alex to come in and see if he has something, but I want either one of you to say what it is you have to say, because it's definitely an honor to be here, man. I appreciate both of you, man. It's great to sit here and to listen to this body of work.
I want to say first how grateful I am to Levine Museum of the New South making this possible. I first walked into Levine when Charlotte was going through the rioting process here. And they had a few exhibitions going on, and it was still in the streets, and had a big major exhibit within Levine. And it was the first time I walked into Levine. And I've been a part of several programs with the youth at Levine, and it has been an amazing ride. I was so honored when they called me for the Juneteenth celebration, and then to turn around and do the MLK, and now we're here. And I want to tell folks that don't be afraid of your gifts, because somebody needs to know that you have a gift. And sometimes there's room for your gifts that you hadn't even seen yet. And so be proud of your gifts that you walk in, and don't worry about kicking open the door, because if you ring the doorbell correctly, they'll open up. And Levine opened up and allowed some amazing things to happen. This is an amazing opportunity here to talk of history, and history that most people, forget and never talk about. And like I said, we walk past these people every day. Once you hear to us tonight, whether you see it later on when it's posted, once you hear or read, you will no longer be able to say, I didn't think of that person in that way. And that's what I wanted to be a part of what my wording was in this book. I wanted you to say, no longer can you walk past a person and not say, you know what, just maybe let me go find out. That was very important. So thanks to Levine, special shout out to AJ, man, and not just Alphabet Publishing. I'm honored to know that this was worthy of your title, your business, worthy of your service as we service others. And the one of the greatest things was it allowed us to talk more about AJ's experience within the military, in which we learned some things from that too. And so it gave him another platform to share some things. And so it's such an honor, AJ, man. You know we love you to the moon and back, brother. And this has just been great. And so I don't want to take all the time talking, man, but I'm just overjoyed. And I'm grateful for all of you who tuned in and are here now with us live and share it and talk to some folks. We need the word out for those folks who are challenged with things. They're not struggling. They're challenged with some things. And we need the word out because they deserve way more than what they're getting. And some of them can't comprehend what it is they need. And we know now, right? If you didn't know before, you know now in this moment that there are some things that they may not be able to comprehend, but you might be able to help them. And so let's get the word out and let's help our people. Let's build. Let us support our veterans. Let us love them. They have sacrificed what we could never sacrifice. And for that, I'm grateful.
Brethren, you pretty much, nailed it, man. I'm not gonna add too much to it. I will say this though, there's no therapy like human interaction. I'm gonna say that again. There's no therapy that you can get, not a couch, not a TV, not a medication, not a habit that can heal you like human interaction. We are here for each other. And when we remember that and we take in consideration who we are and how we know what we know makes us feel good, then we'll pass on that feel good. All right. Um Nobody can survive through this on their own. You know what I'm saying? Um a lot of people who have ended up in the streets haven't always wasn't always forced to the streets. Some people made that decision of isolation, to create that separation because there's so much going on in here. And it's not a crazy going on in there. It's just a lot of confusion. And most of it is because there's no one to interact with. There's no one to get free with. Um, there was a conversation we held earlier today with sometimes your job is just to be a listener. Everybody that comes with their trauma is not for you to fix. Sometimes they're fixing themselves by relieving them the energy of what is restraining them. So let's try to aid each other the best way we can in this life, so we can all be better people. AJ, thank you for facilitating this, brother. You are our brother. You know we love you to life, man, and can't wait to get that real life hug out you. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm serious, man. We got so much coming. God willing, we will change the look, the course of this world through our messages. So I love y'all, you two guys, man. Thank y'all. Um, Big shout out, big embrace to the Levine of the New South. Um, y'all don't know how magical of a moment y'all made for us tonight by embracing us and allowing us to bring such a message to such a platform is it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing. I'm truly honored. Um, and I just look forward to doing future things with us all. May the Most High continue to guide us, bless us all, and let's all keep shining our light for the universe.
And like today, you should have discovered that we are beings of sound. This book, Trigger Warning, should tell you why it matters how you say it, and it matters who you say it to. Because you can tell somebody something and they may not be able to translate it, but you can tell a poet something and they will translate your message for the masses. So this book is translation for the masses. So let's be about what we're supposed to be about. If you're in art, let's art. If you're a poet, let's get to poeting. And I just want you to know that I'm grateful for the Levine Museum of the New South for giving us this opportunity. And don't forget, it's www.museumoftheNewSouth.org. Visit it, and if you're in Charlotte, visit and see what display. I think it's called From Cotton Fields to Skyscrapers, and that seems like a long journey to me. And I want to see it for myself, so I got to go just to see this for myself. And I want to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Buy the book Trigger Warning, and you'll be so blessed to receive it. And buy some extra copies and give it to some veterans that you know and veterans you don't know, and they will be blessed to receive it too. So just know we're here. These gifts we have, it only works when we're serving. So when you know the gift you have is for the service of others, it's relatable in the message that you write. So let's be about our job, be about our gift, and let's present it as a service to others. And that's what this book is. Trigger Warning is a service to others. So thank you, man. I love you, brothers, man. And I want Alex to come on so we could tell him, I know he want to stay in the background, but I just want to let them know how grateful we are for everybody that showed up, for everybody that typed a message, that wrote a message in here, that said anything. It is an honor to know that there are people listening, that other people want to know what this message is. And I think the two of you did an awesome job of displaying what you've written and what you've translated in this book.
I don't really have much else to say. I'm just really overjoyed. AJ, thank you again so much. Witz, it's an honor always, man. I appreciate you. We have so much to coming up. We have a whole new journey we're on right now. The three of us, penmanship is our new movement. So stay focused and get prepared for that. We have a whole list of new merchandise. I don't know if we're letting that out today, but we have some new merchandise that will probably be posted tonight on our Instagram. So follow our Instagrams. We may go live, who knows, but we have some new things that are coming instantly. We've been holding back some stuff that we didn't want to release, and I don't want to tarnish what this moment is, right? But it is such a magical time, and we're in a time now where we know that we are all we have and we are all we need. And it starts at home and it continues as you step outside your doorstep. And so if we can look at our neighbor in that form, in that fashion, let's just change the way it's moving. And that'd be great. And that's it. I'll keep y'all here all day. I talk a lot.
But thank you so much. And Umi, I'm so grateful for these two that you birthed, and thank you for being for sharing love with us all and everybody here. Miss Betty, I honor you because you're always everywhere we are, and it's always a pleasure to have you in the house. And Gifted and Butterfly and Karen and everybody. Sarah, I want to thank all of you for being present in this moment, because this will be on YouTube and on the Facebook. So I don't know how long it's going to be up, but we'll definitely share the link. So if you want to see it from beginning to end, we're going to present that. But these two young men have done a great job with this book. The book is trigger warning. Get it for yourself, or get it for anybody else that you think need to read it or need to hear it. And they say the recordings remain public afterwards. So definitely, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to facilitate this great event. Levine Museum of the New South, it is an honor. So hopefully there will be more endeavors that we will venture together, more collaborations in the near future. So be excellent, and just know that today, every day you have an opportunity to be excellent. It's your choice. So I guess Alex is not showing up. So let me bid you farewell, and thank you for coming through. And don't forget, the link is here. Or follow Coach Jah or Mr. Witz and buy the book. Buy a couple of books. Buy a mass of books, or a clump of books, or I don't know, a flock of books. I don't know how do you call books if they can fly? I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. But thank you so much for being here. And this is man, I am so honored to be here. But thank you so much. Y'all have an excellent day, and